We're going to start the session today. Welcome to the Summer Abroad session about the Italy 2025 program. We're going to just begin with a land acknowledgement. We wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. And today, this meeting place is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So we'll start with some brief introductions. My name is Genevieve Steidman. I'm the program coordinator for the Italy program, and I work in the Summer Abroad office. I'm happy to be joined today by my colleague, Wendy Shern. She's another coordinator in the office, and she'll be helping out on the back end. She'll be dropping links into the chat and answering questions in the Q&A as well. So keep an eye on the Q&A and chat for extra information. And we're thrilled to have with us today our three instructors for the Italy program: Scot Wortley, who is teaching the criminology course, Richard Greene, who's teaching the creative writing course, and Elizabeth Legge, teaching the fine art history course. We also have with us our on-site coordinator, Vincenzo or Nini Di Pietro, who you'll get to know very well if you do the program. He runs all of the operations on site and is our liaison with the University of Siena. So he'll be chatting a little bit about his role and about Siena as we get a little further into the session. We also have joining us towards the end of the session, one of our students from last year. He was in the FAH course last year in 2024, Bjorn Kriel. So he'll be joining us a little bit before the end of the session to talk about his experience. And it's a great opportunity for you to ask questions that you have that maybe only a student might be able to answer fully for you. So during today's session, we'll start with an overview of Summer Abroad generally. Then we'll get to details about the 2025 Italy program. We'll hear from our course instructors and on-site coordinator. We'll speak about costs as well as financial aid, how to apply, accessibility and EDI resources, next steps, and as I mentioned, then the student experience. So we do have a Q&A module for questions. As this is a webinar, we're not able to take questions by raising your hand, but please place any questions you have into the Q&A. And also keep an eye on the Q&A because as Wendy is answering questions there, answered questions will be posted. So you may have a question, you may see that it's already been answered in the Q&A. And then there's some questions which we'll also handle live if there's more discussion that we want to talk about any specific questions. Also, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the website in a couple of days. You'll be able to find it on the Summer Abroad site, and we'll also send the link to anyone who registered for this session. If they can't make it, they'll get the recording that way. And of course, share it with family, friends, anyone who has interest in what the program's all about. So generally, what is Summer Abroad? So it's an opportunity to earn a full U of T Y credit. So that's normally a full year credit in 3 to 4 weeks during the summer. So a lot of students ask what the difference is between this and an exchange. With Summer Abroad, it's a U of T credit, so it's not a transfer credit. And this means that the course appears on your ACORN record just like an on-campus course would. And you can use it to fulfill program and breadth requirements as needed. Also, unlike an exchange, these are taught by U of T faculty. So it's a lot like a U of T classroom that's been transported abroad. You also have access to on-site non-academic support. So as I mentioned, we have our on-site coordinator. He also has a staff of at least 3 on-site assistants who can help you with all the non-academic things that come up when you're doing the program and any kind of support that you need. Class sizes are always small. We usually cap them to 25 students per course. And this gives you the chance to really work closely with your professor and colleagues. For some students, this is the first time that they've taken a seminar course and really worked that closely in a classroom setting. So it's a wonderful experience in that way as well. It's an opportunity to experience what you learn. Apologies, for some reason it says virtual field trips. These are definitely real field trips that we have to complement the course content. A couple of years ago, we did have a virtual summer abroad program, but here we're definitely on site. And so you will have field trips integrated into the course to really experience what you learn. We will also provide you with a pre-departure orientation, an online student guide to give you all the details that you'll need about your experience to come and really get you prepared for it. And you also have access to the resources of the Safety Abroad office. So you'll hear a lot about safety abroad. That'll happen more in the post-admission steps. So our offices are located at Woodsworth College, as you can see by my background. So we are on the St. George campus, but our programs are open to all students at no matter which campus or faculty you are at. You are equally eligible for our programs. So there are a lot of benefits to doing a summer abroad. Number one, to be able to complete a course in only 4 weeks of study in the summer. And this particular program is in the last half of the summer. So some students even will take another course in the first half, or they may work during the first half. And you really get to just complete that course in 4 weeks of the summer. Because it is just the one course that you're taking, you're able to focus on the course material completely. And everyone in your course is also only doing the one class. So it's a really immersive and also intensive academic experience. So do be prepared for the intensity of it. It is a lot of work, but it's very, very rewarding as well. As I mentioned, field trips are integrated so that you can really bring what you're learning alive. And another thing that students often mentioned that they gained was communication and presentation skills. So like I mentioned, for some students, this is their first opportunity to take a small seminar course, and they really benefit from the experience of doing that in a very supportive, very immersive environment. And of course, the personal development. So we hear time and again about the lifelong friends that people meet in these programs. We have people whose children are now doing the Italy program. We have people who met their spouses there, all kinds of connections that students make when they're in these programs. It also enables you to gain independence and confidence, especially in traveling. So for some students, it may be the first time that they're living on their own. Other students, it may be their first time traveling internationally. So there is a lot to learn, and it really gives you the opportunity to learn that in a very supportive environment. And adapting to new facilities, new environments, things that you're not expecting, makes you overall more adaptable and more flexible. And finally, the professional benefits. So we hear a lot about becoming a global citizen and that employers want people who have international experience. This is a really good opportunity to say that you've lived in another country, that you studied in another country. It's definitely something to add to your resume, to your CV. Students explore possibilities for graduate school. Many students will even change their career direction because they're so inspired by this new environment. So a lot to gain from doing a summer abroad, while at the same time, it's good to remember that it is a very intensive academic experience. So it's not like a travel tourism program, it is an academic program. And with that comes a lot of benefits. So eligibility, as I mentioned, our programs are open to all U of T students who are in good academic standing. So if you are currently on probation, you would not be eligible this year to apply. You would have to wait until your status on ACORN is in good standing. You have to have a CGPA of at least 1.75 at the time of application. But first-year students, even if you do not have any final grades at this time, on your ACORN record, you can still apply as long as you have successfully completed the first term of your study. And many of the courses don't have prerequisites, but some do. So we ask you to check the course descriptions on our website, and our instructors will talk about them a little bit later as well. Students from other North American universities are also eligible. We often have visiting students in this program. You may have a friend who's at Guelph or Western and they want to do the program with you. They are able to. They would also be earning a U of T credit, and they would just need a letter of permission from their home university. So if you do have friends or family from other schools that are interested, tell them to reach out to us and we can walk them through the process. So let's get to the details about the Italy program. So of course, it takes place in Siena, Italy. The dates are Friday, August 1st to Saturday, August 30th, so a full 4 weeks. So Siena is an incredibly beautiful medieval town in the heart of Tuscany. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Hopefully, if you just Google Siena and look at some of the images that you see, it really is an incredible and unique place to study. Our program is hosted by the University of Siena, which dates back to the year 1240. And we have been working with them since 1972, so a little bit over 50 years that we've been running this program in a wonderful partnership with the University of Siena. And of course, since then, we've had over 5,000 students participate in the program. As I mentioned, field trips are incorporated into your course. These can sometimes take place outside of class hours, and there are also some overnight trips in most of the courses. And those, the field trip schedule will be provided to you after admission to the program. One thing to highlight is the famous Palio di Siena horse race. There's a picture of it on the bottom of my screen, but the photo doesn't really do it justice. It's an incredible horse race that takes place in the town square. So in the Piazza del Campo, they actually have a horse race, and it's been going on for hundreds of years. The whole town gets involved. There's all kinds of activities and trial runs and stuff leading up to it. It's a really unique cultural experience. So we're lucky that it happens to fall during our program. It's on August 16th every year. I recommend you look it up on YouTube. You'll see all kinds of videos of it if you're interested in what this event is. But your classes are held Monday through Thursday from 9 to 12. So every morning, Monday through Thursday, and you do have your weekends and Fridays off. Some students will travel a little bit on the weekends. That's fine, as long as you make sure that you are back for class in time for Monday morning every week. Attendance is strictly mandatory for all classes and field trips. So that's another way that it's quite different from a U of T course on campus. You must be in class every day, unless, of course, you are sick, in which case you would need some kind of medical documentation. But it's really not the kind of thing where you can miss a class. And that's largely because it is so condensed. You're doing, as we mentioned, a Y credit in 4 weeks. So missing even one class is missing a lot of material. So that's why we have quite a strict attendance policy for our programs. In addition to the academics, there are program activities that bring all the students together. No matter which course they're in, they do some activities together. So of course, we start with walking tours of Siena, residence orientations, a welcome get-together, a contrada dinner, on-site academic orientation, the University of Siena welcome reception, and we also do an optional Italian tutorial at the beginning of the program, so you can pick up a little bit of the basics of the language while you're there. These activities will be providing more information on the program activities after admission, and you'll see a calendar of events for the first few days of the program. There are also non-U of T activities, which are optional, which you can sign up for on site. And these are organized by our on-site staff. So these would not be prepaid as part of your program or field trip fees, which is why we call it non-U of T activities. But they are with our U of T group. So there's options like visiting Verona for an opera, cooking classes, wine tasting, horseback riding, and other things that our wonderful on-site staff will organize while you're there. So a little bit about the accommodations. So you'll be staying at the University of Siena residences. So these are residences where University of Siena students live during the year. So these are normal university residences. They're not like hotel rooms. So you have to be prepared for very different accommodations than you might be used to. Also, these are very, very old buildings, so it's not going to be like living in some of the new residences at U of T, let's say. It will be very, very basic residence, but that's part of the experience. You're there to live as an Italian student would, and you'll be living in the same residences. So they are double accommodations. You will have a roommate. Washrooms are shared by usually 2 rooms, and there are shared common kitchen areas. So you are able to purchase some food, store it in the fridge. You can prepare some light meals for yourself, but there is no meal plan. So we ask students to budget approximately $1,200 for meals, and those are based on the prices at the local student cafeterias. Of course, if you like to go to a lot more restaurants, you like to go out a little bit more, you're going to want to budget more for that. So you need to keep in mind what your own preferences are as well. Definitely be prepared for the differences. So one thing we have in bold here is that there's no air conditioning. We do tell students all the time to be prepared for this, but it's still kind of surprising for some students. And it's a very different feel to live in buildings that are non-air conditioned when we're used to, in North America, constantly being in air conditioned buildings. We're even sometimes chilly in the summer when we're inside. It's very different. And that's how it is in most of Europe still, is that most of the buildings, especially the older buildings, just don't have air conditioning. So we ask you to think about alternatives like bringing a fan, purchasing a small fan when you're there, just to think ahead to some of the differences that you will experience. Here's a couple of pictures of the residence buildings. This is Sperandi, I believe, and that's where our students will be next year. And some pictures of the residence rooms. So they are small, basic rooms. And you'll also get more information in the student guides that we provide once you're admitted to the program. And at the pre-departure phase of the program, we'll provide you more information about the residences, including the address, including the name of it. You can also research it a little bit online yourself. So in terms of getting to Italy, there is no group flight. We do ask students to make their own travel arrangements, but we provide a recommended flight. So once students are admitted, we'll provide you with the flight details for the recommended flight. And this way, students can choose if they want to take that flight or not. Some students may be traveling ahead of time. They may be traveling after. They may have preferences for which airline they want to fly with. So it's just a recommended flight. I'd say last year, out of the group of about 110 students or so, I would say maybe about 50 did the recommended flight. So a good group of students does take that flight. You can meet the students, your colleagues ahead of time and fly together if you want. The recommended flight also comes with a bus transfer, which we arrange from Rome to Siena and back at the end of the program. And even if you're not on the recommended flight, if your flight arrives before the recommended flight, then you can meet the group when they arrive and you can join the bus to Siena. A lot of people do that as well, as long as your flight is arriving before our group, because if it's arriving after, we can't hold the whole group back for late arrivals. We also set up a student social media group ahead of time. And I mention this here because some students will want to get in touch and organize their own group travel to Siena. They might want to meet ahead of time. So shortly after admission, again, we usually ask a student to create a social media group, which our office is not involved in at all. We send the link to everyone and it allows you to kind of connect ahead of time, ahead of the program. We will also have, as I mentioned before, a pre-departure orientation, which takes place at the end of June. And that's also online. And we will provide you with also an online student guide at that time as well. So students are responsible for arranging their own visa if it's necessary, but we do provide supporting documentation. Everyone should check the requirements for their own citizenship. Canadian citizens can check the Government of Canada website. International students should check with their embassy or consulate for their requirements. So if you're applying in Toronto, we also liaise with the Italian consulate because it's often difficult for students to get their appointments. Italy is a very popular place to visit in the summer. So we do try to arrange group bookings with the Italian consulate. So we will provide more information about that as it comes closer to the time. You wouldn't be applying until after you're already admitted to the program. So we will be in touch with you if you do need a visa about what the steps will be for applying. We also encourage everyone to review the terms and conditions of their travel health insurance, but also any travel or cancellation insurance that they might need for their own flight arrangements. So one thing that is new for 2025 is the ETIAS, which is it's an electronic, sort of like an electronic travel authority, or ETA, but it's for the European Union. So it's the European Travel Information and Authorization System. And this is for all visa exempt people. So this includes Canadian citizens. So if you are visa exempt, you still have to do this online ETIAS, or ETIAS it's called. So you do have to have your passport to apply for it. You apply online. It usually only takes a few days at the most to get approval. Sometimes it's just within minutes. You're basically entering your basic information and your passport information. You do pay a fee of €7 online, and then you have your electronic travel authority. So you need that for traveling anywhere to the EU. They're phasing it in this year. So it's a good idea to check the ETIAS website, which is, I have it on the bottom of the screen there. It's etias.com, and just look into what the process will be. It should be a fairly easy and straightforward process. So now, let me just check to see if there's anything in the Q&A. It looks like Wendy's been answering the questions as we've been going along. So I'm going to take a little break from my presentation and have our instructors talk about their courses. So a little bit more about the academic side. So we'll start with Professor Scot Wortley and the course Current Issues in Criminology.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Scot Wortley. I am a professor at the Center for Criminology and Social Legal Studies here at the University of Toronto. I've been teaching in the Siena Summer Abroad program. I think I've been there for about 6 sessions. This should be my 7th session now. So I have a lot of experience now. And every year I'm extremely enthusiastic about returning to Siena. I just want to start by saying it is a magical, romantic city that will leave an imprint on your life, and you will remember the experience of being in Siena forever, and you'll probably want to return like I have. I'll talk a little bit about the course and the topics that will be covered, how I teach the course, and we'll also discuss a little bit about the planned field trips that we will be embarking on. This is a great course. Many of you who have taken criminology in the past have probably taken, large lecture courses with 200-300 students. This is very different. As stated in the introduction, the seminars are limited to about 25 students. We meet 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. So you really get to know your instructor, and you get to know fellow students in a way that is just not feasible when taking courses on campus at the University of Toronto. You really develop friendships, relationships, and you approach the topics in a much more intense fashion than you get the opportunity to in a typical university course. I like to teach the course, starting every day with a bit of a lecture, having a break, and then opening it up so that we can have intense conversations. I often try to supplement courses with films or guest lectures. We also have things like class debates or criminology Jeopardy to try to make things a little fun and free-flowing. I always remain in class at least a half an hour afterwards if anybody has any questions or requires assistance. And the town of Siena is small enough that you will see me and my family walking around town, and feel free to stop and have a discussion at any time. This is really, it may sound cliche, but you really develop a sense of family during this course, more so than you do in other university settings. Topics to be covered. We try to address contemporary issues. What are some of the hot topics in crime and criminal justice studies? We will have a introductory a class that will be posted. It will be asynchronous. Those of you who want to attend this lecture, a pre-departure lecture, can attend live. I will post the time in July, but I will also post a video of that lecture for those of you who, for whatever reason, can't make it. We'll talk about issues of cross-national crime trends and patterns during that initial lecture. Then we're going to talk about, some issues that are relevant to the location. We'll look at the mafia and the growth of international organized crime. We will look at the issue of immigration and crime, a huge issue, not only in the United States, as Donald Trump likes to say, but also across Europe with the migration crisis and how that is contributing to problems of crime and social disorganization within the European Union. We're also going to look at issues of youth radicalization, street gangs, and homegrown terrorism, a problem that has emerged in Europe and North America. We're going to look at human trafficking and the refugee crisis. We're going to look at issues of drug prohibition, hate crime, and the rise of right-wing nationalism. We're going to look at corporate crime within the global economy, international trends and patterns with respect to the issue of women and violence. And finally, we're going to look at international trends in crime prevention and punishment practices. We also have field trips planned. These are some of the highlights of any course in Siena. Some of the trips that we have planned this year include a 2-night visit to Rome, where we will be visiting the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, to explore really the birthplace, not only of Western criminal justice systems and modern forms of punishment, but also the birth of criminology as an academic discipline. Now, many of you have taken introduction to criminology will know the names like Lombroso or Beccaria, who are some of the founders of modern criminology. If possible, we will also visit a number of sites, including the Criminology Museum, which has been established in Rome. We will also be visiting Florence. In Florence, we will be talking about how crime and violence helped form the Florentine state. We will also be visiting the famous Uffizi Gallery, one of the world's great art galleries, to explore themes of justice and crime within art. We will also one of the highlights of the trip in the past has been a day-long trip where we visit 2 different Italian prisons. One a more modern prison that actually specializes in housing those convicted and involved in organized crime. And then a very unique prison in the town called Volterra, another Tuscan hill town, where we will be having a tour. This is an old Medici fortress that has been converted into a medium security prison. So we get a tour of the prison in the afternoon, followed by a break to explore the town of Volterra, followed by a very unique experience, which is a dinner inside the prison walls, held in the prison courtyard. One of the rehabilitation strategies used within this prison is teaching inmates how to engage in the hospitality and restaurant business, everything from being a chef to being a host to being a waiter to being a sommelier. So it's a very unique experience to sit inside a prison and be served a wonderful meal by Italian individuals who are serving time. Great experience. We also will visit within Siena, we will visit the police station where we usually have a discussion with a deputy chief or the chief of police for Siena, explaining policing in Italy. We visit an immigration processing center within Siena that deals with the processing of migrants and helping them settle in Italy or other areas of Europe. We will visit the forensic units where we will learn about forms of everything about police surveillance strategies, including CT cameras throughout Siena and forensics investigations. Followed that day by a wonderful lunch in a restaurant that specializes in hires and specializes in the rehabilitation of former inmates. These are a number of the trips that we have. We also start in the first week of class. We typically visit a winery in the famous, beautiful Tuscan region where Siena lies, where we talk about issues of the relationship between um, alcohol production and the rise of organized crime in North America, as well as the relationship between alcohol and violence, violent criminality. In terms of your evaluation strategies, as you can see, we will have a 2 to 4 page reaction paper based on one of the assigned readings. We will have a book report assignment. All of these will be provided to you hopefully by the end of May, so that those of you who want to get started on these projects and even finish these projects while you're in Toronto, those of you who do so will have a lot more time to engage in the attractions of the site. There will be a midterm test with 20% and a second test on the final day of class with 25%. And finally, there will be a 15% participation and attendance grade. I think I've probably went over my time, so I will uh, um, end it now. I am very open to any questions. You can contact me here or send your questions to the chat or uh, contact me at my email address, and more than willing to have a discussion about the class. Highly encourage it. It's a great experience and it's something that you won't regret.
So next, we'll move on to Professor Richard Greene, who's teaching creative writing in Italy.
Good morning. I am Richard Greene, and most of what I teach at the university is creative writing. Not only creative writing, but mainly so now. And I will say that in a happy career, I have to say that the happiest, the most joyful part has been my work in Siena. And I've also worked in the Oxford program, which is magnificent too. But Siena, to my mind, is really a high point of my professional life. And I think you'll find it is a high point for you. It's different than Canada. It truly is different. And it's a very beautiful city, a very exciting city. And in our travels around, we'll see things that will startle you and I hope inspire you. Now, the course we're putting on here is a workshop, and it's going to be modeled really on a kind of writer's retreat for which aspiring and professional writers pay masses of money out there. These things are offered privately and no academic credit or anything, and they're shorter. But this will take you to a new place where there's all sorts of striking and stimulating experiences. And it will encourage you to write in new ways. Now, the course is going to be really, if you think of it two ways, one is that we're going to be trying to learn about the craft of writing. There are techniques, there's objective stuff you do that makes your writing better. And we'll talk about that. That's something that we'll get heavily into, both me talking, but also in a collective workshop way where everybody's exchanging opinions. And in another respect, it's not just about the how of writing, but what to write about, what to come at. And I'm hoping this course will provide you with surprises, things you haven't seen before that will strike you somewhere deep in your imagination. And you will go at this either in poetry, and I'm suggesting a kind of poetry that responds to art, but I don't want to tie your hands about that. That's my strong suggestion, that poetry that responds to art or architecture is a great thing to do. Or if you're a prose writer, then travel. Travel is such an important thing in literature. Just straight travel writing, memoirs, and of course fiction. And we're hoping that in both of those respects, you'll find something that will be well worth your time abroad. Now, I just sort of want to speak briefly about the field trips. I'm wondering, is there a slide of a painting? Oh, there we go. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Um, if you pay a lot of money and fly to Paris, and you go to the Louvre, you'll go into a room where there's 10 million people holding cameras in the air to look at one painting by Leonardo, the Mona Lisa. The Uffizi has just opened a whole room dedicated to him. This is the Annunciation, I believe. And this is a rare experience. It's a huge, amazing gallery. You'll see things that you'd never thought you'd see, and in different styles, and evoking different reactions from you. So this is one thing that we'll do. We'll go to Florence, and we'll do a number of other things. I also note that Florence is where uh, uh, a novel we'll be looking at, The English Patient. You may have seen the film, you may have read the book. Is set, it's a Canadian novel, The English Patient, but it's set in the vicinity of Florence. And maybe if we could move on to the next slide, that would be great. Now, here's the thing. In this photograph, no photograph does justice to the town of Assisi. It's one of those hilltop towns which we find in this region of Italy. And it is heart-stoppingly beautiful. To my mind, beautiful in the way the Taj Mahal is beautiful. It is, of course, the home of the medieval saints Francis and Clare, but it's also a place where extraordinary art is found. It's the works of Giotto in particular, we'll see there. You may not know anything about him, but he's terrifically important and really dazzling to look at. And it's also a focus for the ecological movement. But that's another story, and we can talk about that another day. And if Nini, Mr. Di Pietro, who's here on the meeting, can do his magic, we'll throw in a chocolate factory as a visit in the town of Perugia on the way back. We'll drop in and see where Bocce chocolates are made, and also lots of other products. And you get a sample, a big sample. So, what's not to like? In another visit, we'll go to Venice, and there's absolutely nothing I can say about Venice that hasn't been said. It's a beautiful city where writers working in the English language have consistently made homes in Venice. So, Ernest Hemingway lived here for a while, Ezra Pound, and lots of other writers. And they found it profoundly inspiring. And I'm hoping that not just boats, things like the glass blowers in the island of Murano, and lots of other things. So that's one of the field trips. Now, we too would plan to go to Volterra, and who knows, maybe it'll even be on the same day. That's all in the magical organization that Nini will come up with. In our case, we will be looking not so much at the prison, but at the Etruscan artifacts and art. Now, what's Etruscan? the Etruscans were a civilization that disappeared when Rome became dominant, and they are much more a mysterious civilization than the Romans are. The Romans left a lot more records, but the artworks of the Etruscans are strange. They've inspired things like Chinaware. You know, a lot of what we take as the common designs of Chinaware are are derived from Etruscan influences, and writers have consistently gone to Etruscan artifacts and found them very inspiring for what they write. So we'll give that a try. I'm sure you'll love it. And one thing that I'm hoping you'll do, and again, subject to things like accessibility. I mean, if you're not super mobile, this wouldn't be for you. But I am hoping that you will go to the Palio, to the Great Horse Race, so that what we will have then is a mixture of travel, artworks, chocolate, horse races. It will be an immersive experience, a strange one that will, I hope, tap into the deep places in your imagination and allow you to express yourself in a new and valuable way. Now, here's a quick look at our evaluation system. A couple of tests, and both will have objective content. You know, I'll ask you to write a short essay on The English Patient, that novel I referred to by Michael Ondaatje. And I should mention that the novel is different than the movie, so you need to read the novel. But it's a good read. It's a terrific read. I will ask you to read a short book on writing skills called The Elements of Style by two people called Strunk and White. White is the famous E.B. White, whom you may know from Charlotte's Web and what's the one about the mouse? He wrote Stuart Little. Thank you. So he's a great writer, and the tips on how to write are brief, clean, interesting, and sometimes funny. But I will ask you to respond to that book in a test. There'll be 20% class participation. And remember, it's a workshop course. We'll be talking, a lot of talk. You will have an occasion, at least one, to present your work, maybe more, depending on our enrollments, and have it discussed by a group of people. And so you won't just be listening to me, because, you know, profs are always wrong. Only your students tell you the truth. No, I don't know if I'm getting a laugh for this. On Zoom, you don't get a laugh. I will ask you to keep a journal, especially of our travels, and to make note of things that stood out for you. And then finally, I will ask you to clean up the works that you've been writing in the time of the course, and to submit that to me as a portfolio. And that will be the final element, and of course the largest element. Okay, and I guess I think that's the end of my slides there. So I'm just looking forward terrifically to seeing some creative writers in Siena.
Great, wonderful. And again, any questions that you have, please post them in the Q&A. Right now, we'll move along to Professor Legge and the studies abroad in modern and contemporary art and architecture.
Hello, everybody. I may be slightly brief, largely because my colleagues have covered all the very juicy things about Siena and Venice and all these heavenly places. You don't need me to pile on, perhaps. I'm going to start out with glum reality, which is the actual evaluation, which is, this has changed over the, let me think, 8 times I've done a course related to this. To take into account the need, I think Professor Greene recognizes it too, the need to have assignments that you can actually do in Siena without the necessarily the resources you might have when you're in Toronto. The first thing is an essay that I want you to prepare before the course, because then you will be so much happier in Siena. You can actually hand it in during the course of the course, but if you get it drafted before you go, then you can more wholeheartedly engage with the things we're doing. You can look at the syllabus to see what it's about, but basically what got me going with thinking about the counterintuitive thing of teaching a course in Italy about modernity and the contemporary was Italian design, because Italy has been a hothouse or hotbed, I don't know what the term is, of cutting edge design for a long, long time. And when I was an art history student, everything was France. And then sometimes you could take a course about American art, post-war American art. Italy was not really on the map at all, and neither was Britain for that matter. And I proposed to a chair of our department some years ago, I said, look, you know, Italy is actually a living modern place with tremendous contemporary design and films and so on and so forth. And he said, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Why don't you set up a course? And I did, and it's always been quite a thrill. The first assignment then is to do an essay dealing with an object of Italian design. I will say this right now, I am happy to consult with any of you. Just send me an email in advance if you want feedback, if you want advice, I'm available. The other principal assignment is that you have to write 2 short essays responding to works of art we've seen, because that's the nature of modern and contemporary art. I always say it's a bit like a treasure hunt. We encounter these things physically in situ, and I want you to be able to look at art, think about it, think about the very often the context it's in, which is Italy, this living museum. It's in the context of ancient Rome. It's in the context of medieval villages and so on. And there will be this contemporary work. So as I said, we travel a lot to scout out art, and I'm going to briefly tell you the places we go. The first thing is a field trip that we take to a private collection of what is called site-specific sculpture. The Gori family in Pistoia, outside Pistoia, have a farm and huge lands, part of which has been converted into an English-style garden and forest, part of which is olive orchards, and throughout are huge works of installation art made by the principal artists, especially from the 1960s and on. And it is the most amazing 3-hour walk through these this Italian landscape encountering art. Last year, the person who took us around was the daughter of Gori, who started the collection. She has grown up in that environment. It's really actually quite thrilling and surprising all around. The second place we go is Venice, because, well, it's Venice, but it's also the home to some spectacular, again, contemporary and modern art collections. The first place we go is the Peggy Guggenheim collection, which is a little jewel of a place. Peggy Guggenheim collected art by many major 20th century artists, often by, how shall I say, having relationships with them. But of course, I don't lower myself to the level of such gossip. We're going to go to the Guggenheim collection and see marvelous works there in this lovely, lovely little palazzo. Then we go to the Punta della Dogana Museum, which is a converted customs house medieval customs house that opens onto the water. Pino, who is a fantastically rich art collector, I think he's bought up wholesale everything important of the last 30 years, had the medieval customs house renovated by a major contemporary architect. It's very sensitively done, and he houses a huge collection of contemporary art there. So we walk there. We also have a walking tour of Venice and see the principal sites. Also in Venice, we have a dinner. There is, because Nini is a magician, there is a pizzeria beautifully located on the Zattere, looking out over the open water. We usually go there for dinner. You can see some of the little people having a spritz there in the image on the right. And on the left is a view of the place where we have dinner that night. We go to then to 3 hill towns in Tuscany. Other of my colleagues have talked about the staggering beauty of the hill towns and the views from the hill towns. You'll see. But also what's remarkable is that there's been a project in Siena province for about 20 years of acquiring work, again, by the major international contemporary artists and installing them in these hill towns in unexpected places. So we walk around these beautiful medieval towns. San Gimignano, Colle di Valdelsa is spectacular. Colle di Valdelsa has a lower town square that has been entirely constructed by contemporary artists, and it's very, very beautiful. And Poggibonsi itself is not so glorious, but there is a remarkable medieval fountain in a park that we're going to visit, which yields surprises when you look at it. And finally, of course, we go to Rome. I want to advise you that in Rome, we do start with a very important Roman monument. We also look at the Baroque and Renaissance art in the Villa Borghese, because all of these frame one of the most important movements of Italian modernist art, which was futurism, Italian futurism. Futurism is particular. There's the Era Pacis, where we start, the huge Roman altar. One of the things about the Italian futurists, yes, we can leave it here for a minute, is that they were slid easy as pie into being fascists. And one of the interesting things about Italian modernism is how allied it is with fascism, which really gained power in Italy in the 1920s right through until 1943. This is one of the great masterpieces of fascism. In fact, Eur, which was designed under Mussolini, the dictator Mussolini. Il Duce, the leader, had this huge site built in white marble that was meant to house a World's Fair. Unfortunately, because the war intervened and didn't go the way Mussolini wanted, it's now all office blocks. And in fact, the fashion house Fendi occupies the building you see here, which is known as the Square Colosseum. We go out to Eur and walk around. It is a spectacular place to walk around. It's modern, but it's also a case study of how political systems can interface with ideas about art and architecture. I am happy, as I said, to answer any questions. I cannot stay long today. Unfortunately, I will look for your questions, but don't hesitate to email me. Genevieve, is Bjorn going to speak to us?
Yes, yeah, he is here.
Okay, well, why don't you fire up Bjorn then?
Bjorn, are you?
I'm here. Hello, can you hear me?
Hi,
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so hi everyone. My name's Bjorn. I'm a 4th year music student at U of T in the jazz program, if anyone's wondering. I play the vibraphone. And I did the Siena Study Abroad, Summer Abroad program this last summer. So I can speak a few to a few aspects of my experience. First of all, I think Siena is like the most marvelous, beautiful place probably I've ever been to in my life. I've traveled a fair bit around Europe here and there, and it will forever hold the most special place in my heart. It's not a place that is too concerned with modern luxuries. The luxuries of Siena are, as I think somebody perhaps alluded to, of the imagination, and will revive a part of the modern soul that is slowly being eaten away by Toronto modernism. To see a way of life, a culture, a community that is tightly knit and governing itself by its own principles that have existed for a very long time is beautiful and inspiring. I think it can be unusual even for some people to see something like this, especially from Canada. There are a few things that I would like to caution students about. If you do not like walking or walking up hills, or if you don't like heat, I'm telling you, if you think Toronto summer is hot, you don't understand. It is very, very warm in southern Italy in August. Now, that being said, I personally loved it. I thought it was magnificent to wake up and feel the sun. And I mean, the lighting on the hillside in the dawn and the dusk, like, it is a kind of yellow that will change your life. You will never see anything like this before or after. All of the best meals I've ever had in my life in Siena, all the best coffee. I mean, seriously, this place is the best. But like, if walking for many, many kilometers a day in the heat sounds like something unbearable to you, this is not the right fit for you. And what I actually would recommend most to any student going to Siena on a study abroad is go out of the residence, put your phone on airplane mode, and walk in any direction in the city as far as you can go. Purposefully get lost and wander around and put yourself in a completely other world and just go into places and try to talk to people. Don't concern yourself with trying to replicate some kind of fantasy of what southern Italy is like or whatever. Just leave it all behind, turn off your phone, purposefully get lost, and wander around and open your eyes, and you will be amazed. It is truly beautiful. I found the people in Siena to be totally welcoming, really, really kind, very patient and encouraging with trying to learn the language and get into it that way. For people who love music, I mean, there is an incredible jazz institute there that has a festival that runs at the same time. And they do these performances at the Medici Fortress. And there's also the name of the school is eluding me right now, but Chigiani, perhaps? It's something like
Chigiana, the
Chigiana. It's a classical music institute. It is phenomenal. They have very affordable performances all through the summer, the whole time that I was there. I went to many of them. But, there are some things you can do in Canada, such as have air conditioning all the time, order McDonald's to your residence. Don't do that stuff. You don't need to go all the way to southern Italy to do this. I saw a lot of my peers on this trip. And I understand there are creature comforts, in a plate when you're kind of out of your element, but be out of your element, embrace it. Like, if you want to stay the same, don't go. But I encourage everybody to step outside your comfort zone, try new foods. And the paleo is like the most spectacularly strange event of my life. I mean, when we were there, the first day that it was supposed to happen, it started pouring rain. And so this drama just build and builds up because everyone's waiting for hours, and then it's pouring rain and they cancel it, and then they restart it and schedule it for the next day. It is like you would not believe. I've never felt such a palatable human tension. And Professor Legge's course is also very wonderful. It totally expanded in my mind what my concept of art history. And I think to see modern art in an ancient space is very much an enlightening experience to what, especially if there are anyone who is an artist who's thinking of doing this. I mean, it'll change the way you think about how you interact with your own heritage and the spaces that you operate in your life. I think that pretty much sums it up, though. I mean, I seriously can't stress enough that this was one of the best experiences of my life. It was totally formative for me. It actually helped me conquer a lot of social anxiety that I had in my life. Yeah, I mean, it just was helpful to me on so many levels as an artist, as a student. And it is a class, by the way. So, you do actually have to study. So don't think to yourself that this is a paid vacation exactly. Though aspects of that are true. I mean, there is time for leisure and having fun and seeking out experiences and whatever. But yeah, it's priceless to me. I'm very grateful. I think about it a lot still, actually. So anyways, I hope that helps.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's amazing to hear your perspective. Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce Vincenzo Di Pietro, or Nini, as several of our profs have already referred to him, and all the arranging and all the on-site trips that he organizes. So he's here today. Maybe Nini, if you could just say a couple of words about your role with the program.
Sure. Hi to everybody. My name is Vincenzo, but everybody call me Nini, which means baby. Since I was little, now I'm big, but still Nini for everybody, and not Nini. This year I will become an adult in the program, in the sense that this summer will be my 21st year that I am doing the coordinator of the program. I lived in Siena for over 20 years, and then had another 21 with this summer, being involved with the program. What is my role? Basically, my role is to do, to have all of you have a great experience from the logistical point of view. Of course, academically, you have to study. I cannot study for you. So I will be there to solve any kind of problem that you could have, hopefully none. But I will be there logistically to help the professor to have a successful field trip and to have a successful staying in Siena. What else I can do? Of course, I won't do this by myself, but there will be some on-site assistants that they are from Canada, and so all of us we will help you to do it. To have a wonderful experience. I like to mention a sentence that I always say when there are this kind of info session, and which is when you come to this program, you will cry 2 times. I always say, one when you arrive, because you say, where the hell am I? Because it's completely different from the living style that you have in Toronto. At the beginning, probably you say, oh my God, what is this country about? And everything. But when you will leave, you will cry again, because everybody wants to continue to stay in Siena. And, I'm still in contact with students that were my first year, so it means 20 years ago. And they still remember fondly their experience. And there are a lot of people, like Genevieve said at the beginning, that are still in contact between them, because there is a very unique experience. Since that the classes are small, and Siena is a city where you can really become close to each other as a colleague, student, and everything, you will have a wonderful experience. This is not to promote the program, but as you can see also from Bjorn, he was really enthusiastic, and if we could have over 5,000 students, they all will tell you the same. If you have any question regarding the logistic, just contact the office, and they will address to me your question. I will be more than happy to answer, to help you with anything. And regarding the heat, you will see, you didn't like at the beginning, but then after you start to love it. And when you are in Toronto, you start to crying again, thinking how nice was the warm weather there.
I agree with you. I think that's an important point, Nini, that we adjust to the heat. I certainly did. I'm 100 years old, it was never a problem.
So, it's not something unbearable, because luckily the residents, are thick wall, so it's not so hot inside. Actually, it's quite bearable. And anyway, that are something that easily can be bypassed. And if you have any question, again, logistically speaking, about Siena, the field trip, the housing, the residents, just feel free to ask me through the office.
So let's talk a little bit about the costs for the Italy program. So you can find the detailed cost chart on our website. I'm just circling it here to show you where to find it. Sometimes students have a little trouble navigating to where the information is. So when you're on the Italy page, there's this menu at the left. When you click on costs, this page will open up. And then there's two different charts, one for domestic students, one for international. The only difference is the international fee is slightly higher. But I'm going to go through the cost chart now, just to show you, just to highlight things and how it's organized. So there's two parts to it. There's the fees that are paid directly to U of T, and then there's additional costs which you would carry on your own. And then it comes to an approximate total cost of the program. But this is variable because of all of the costs on here, which are variable. So the ones that aren't there's the $210 application fee. There's the course fee. And for domestic students, it's $4,440. There is an international premium on top of that for the international fees. There's also the U of T incidental fees. In 2024, it was this amount. These will actually appear on your Acorn account when we add the course. And so you pay the incidental fees on Acorn. These other fees that are paid to U of T, you pay directly to the Summer Abroad office, so not through Acorn. These ones are paid through the Summer Abroad office on our portal. The field trip fees will vary. Actually, this year, they're all the same for all three courses. So there are your field trip fees, which includes all transportation, entrance fees for the various field trips of your course, and then the accommodation cost. So those are paid to Summer Abroad. And then these additional costs are variable. So this airfare is based on an estimate in December of what the ticket would be for the recommended flight. It may be cheaper now, it may be more expensive. You may find a cheaper flight with another airline, but this was the cost of the recommended flight in December. And then, as I mentioned before, the meals cost is variable depending on your own preferences. So we do have quite a lot of financial aid available for Summer Abroad. Much of it is available through the Summer Abroad office, and it's through your Summer Abroad application. So it's very streamlined. It's a very simple way to apply. As you're applying to the program, you would select whether you are also applying for financial aid. And if you are, then another set of questions will come up for your financial aid application. And there are multiple awards of up to $5,000. They are based on demonstrated financial need. So the award criteria for these Summer Abroad awards is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, a current university undergraduate student. You have to have completed 4 full credits already. So by December 31st of 2024, you have to have completed 4 credits. So if you're in first year now, you wouldn't be eligible for these particular awards. The CGPA for award applications is at least 2.25, and some awards require a higher academic average. But you fill out the one application, and then the awards committee will consider you for all the awards that you are eligible for. There are also merit-based awards. So once you have completed your application, you can then go in to the Summer Abroad portal, search bursaries, and then you can find the merit-based awards, which you apply for after you've already submitted your application. So some of these are eligible for international students. Again, you have to have completed at least 4 credits by December and at least a 2.25 average. So again, for the ones that are based on financial need, you can apply for those as you're applying to the program. For the merit-based ones, you apply for them after you've already submitted your application. So we encourage you to start budgeting now. Final payments will be due in April of this year. So you can apply for awards through our office. You can also apply for awards through multiple sources. So it doesn't hurt your summer abroad application for financial aid if you're also receiving financial aid from other sources. So feel free to piece different sources of financial aid together. These can include OSAP. The thing about OSAP and also these CIE awards is they don't actually release the funds until the start of the program, and the final fees are due on April 23rd. So OSAP and the CIE award, they can help for your on-site expenses, but you would have to pay the full summer abroad payments ahead of that. We also encourage you to check with your own registrar's office. Several of the colleges have bursaries available specifically for international education. So we encourage you to speak to your registrar's office with the financial aid advisor and find out if there are any additional bursaries that you can apply for with your own college. So applications are now open. Oh, sorry, I just wanted to go back and mention that there was on January 9th, there was a session about how to finance your summer abroad. There will be a recording of that session on the website shortly. So check for that, and you can watch the webinar on financial aid for summer abroad. So applications are open. The application deadline is February 3rd. There is a $210 application fee. You will be refunded $100 of that if you are not selected to the program. If you are applying to multiple programs or countries, you would have to pay and fill out a separate application for each country that you're applying to. And there's a separate fee for each of those program locations. This is what the application looks like, just including this screenshot so that you can see. You want to make sure that there are green check marks beside all of the fields to know that you have completed all the steps in the application. Once you pay your fee, then you go back in and you submit your application. So there's 2 steps, submitting your fee and then doing the application, submitting the actual application in the system. Plus, new this year, there is another step. We're including recorded interview questions where students are asked to speak about adaptability and other general questions. So once you submit your payment, you will receive a link by email, and it's your own personalized link. And it links to our system where you'll be asked a couple of questions and you give just a few answers. And there's also a very short written component of this test as well. So we will provide that link once the application fee has been paid. We have some how-to videos on our website, which were put together by our work study students. So I highly encourage you to check those how-to videos. They go through all the steps involved in completing and submitting your application. So again, it's not first come, first served. You're assessed on the basis of your application. We look at academic suitability. So we do look at your grades, which we can access from our end. But then we also do pay a lot of attention to your personal statement, which is part of your application. And that's really your opportunity to say why you want to do this particular program, why this location interests you, why this course interests you specifically, and how it fits into your academic and personal goals. And then, as I mentioned, also the recorded interview questions, those all combined will give us a thorough assessment, and then we make the decisions based on that. So you will receive admission decisions by early March. If you're accepted, you have 1 week to confirm your participation by paying the non-refundable $1,000 deposit. So that's really to secure your spot and to let us know that you are going ahead with the program. If you're offered a spot and you decline it, you would not be refunded the application fee. So the remaining fees are due on April 23rd, but also there's quite a few post-acceptance steps that we ask you to submit by April 23rd as well. So once you're admitted, you'll receive information through the application. It will be the post-acceptance steps, and you'll go through and you'll complete those steps just the same way that you completed your application. The pre-departure orientation will take place at the end of June. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be an online student guide that you can access 24/7 online, or that you can download as a PDF. And that gives you a lot of details about the program and how to prepare for it. So just before we wrap up today, a few words about accessibility abroad. So if you do require accommodations, you should register with your campus's Accessibility Services office, and that way an accommodation plan can be put into place for your Italy course. So if you are registered with your Accessibility Services office, then you would need to upload a letter of accommodation within 7 days after you've been admitted to the Summer Abroad program, and you would upload that into our portal. And there are a range of accommodations that can differ from country to country. So we can't guarantee that all sites will be able to offer all the accommodations that are available at U of T. And that's why we strongly encourage you to contact us ahead of time and discuss any possible accessibility services that you will require. We have a dedicated accessibility and equity, diversity, and inclusion program coordinator. Her name is Wenjie or Sherry Zhu. And she is there to help you discuss any accessibility requirements that you have or questions that you have. So feel free to reach out to her, and she can provide you with information and make sure that the program is a good fit for you. We also have quite a few resources for various student communities on our website. So I encourage you to check this EDI and accessibility section of the website. It has a lot of information about the international experience for various student communities. And there's a lot of new resources that have been put there. So I encourage you to check it for the recent updates. We also have country-specific resources which show, for instance, if you click on the Italy location, it'll tell you a little bit about differences that you may experience in Italy, both in terms of facilities and cultural aspects as well. So again, I highly encourage you to check out that part of our website. We also have an EDI Summer Abroad Award. So there are details on applying for that. And you can also find information on previous EDI award recipients, how they were eligible, and how this program fits into their overall academic journey. So we already had Bjorn speak earlier. Here's just a few photos of Siena. And that's pretty much it for the presentation. Thank you so much for sticking around. I also direct you to the Summer Abroad Instagram. There's amazing student stories on our Instagram. We also have a student stories page on our website where you can hear students talk about their journey, talk about their experience, and really get their perspective on it as well. So do check out our Instagram. And there are lots of ways to get in touch with us. So it's great that you've attended the information session. If you have any other questions for me that you think of after the session, feel free to book an appointment.